Y'all come make this super sweet Bible carrier with me. I'm making it for my little ladies, but I know yours need them too. Goodness, it's so cute. Y'all want to make the book sleeves that the book drops into, and I thought this would be perfect for my little ladies. So that's what we're going to make. The first thing I did was measure their Bible. We are 6 across and 7 down. So I cut my fabric 7 inches wide and 9 inches long. Now I cut my fabric sideways like this. The Bible goes up and down, but when I put it in there, they're going to carry it like this. So I cut it so that my crosses would be straight up and down. Do you see that? So if you have directional fabric, kind of pay attention to that. I have 2 pieces for the front and I have 2 pieces for the inside. The first thing we're going to do is take our 2 outside pieces and we're going to quilt those. I cut my batting pieces a little larger. You obviously don't have to. I just don't trust myself to be able to quilt it without the batting moving a little bit in one direction or the other, and I would like to have batting under all of the pieces when I'm finished. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and sew a diagonal line across mine. You quilt yours any way that you want to. I'm eyeballing mine. I know some of y'all don't want to do that, and if you don't want to do that, you can take a ruler and mark 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, and the same thing on the other side, and then just connect your lines, and it will give you straight lines to go on, okay?
They make a tool called a Hera marker, H-E-R-A, and it's an inkless marker for quilting. You can use that if you want to, or some invisible ink, something that disappears if you need to draw your lines to quilt on top of. I'm just doing this with a straight stitch in straight lines. And don't even ask if I backstitched, because y'all know the answer to that is yes. Always. I see people who don't backstitch, and maybe it works for them, but my grandmother terrified me. She told me my project would fall apart if I didn't backstitch, so I always backstitch, always, every single time, when I start and when I stop.
I've quilted my pieces. Now, I quilted mine in a diamond-like pattern. I went in a diagonal this away, and then I came back and went in a diagonal this away. You can quilt it any way you want. You can do straight lines or don't quilt it at all, whatever you want to do. Now, I cut my batting a little bit bigger, so I'm going to trim it off. And I added some rickrack to mine because mine is for the little ladies, and they're 3. Now, these are the Missouri Star Amelia scissors that I tell y'all about all the time that are amazing. Kind of like our Bible cover that we're making. This really isn't a cover, it's a sleeve. It's going to be kind of like a bag that the Bible drops down in. But they'll be able to take this and put a couple of crayons in it, a notepad, a little piece of paper. Not a lot, but enough for them to have during the service. I'm going to show y'all how to put some handles on it. I'm just making mine out of ribbon, but I'm not going to put a tie on mine because they're 3 and they will have it in a whole knot. But if you want to put a tie, I'm going to show you how to do that too. We've trimmed it off. Now we're going to take this piece and put it pretty side to pretty side, and we're going to sew just on 3 sides. I'm going to sew it with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to get the 1/4 inch seam by following the edge of my fabric with the edge of my presser foot. I'm going to back stitch when I start and when I stop because my grandma said so. I'm at the corner, so I'm going to take my right hand and touch my wheel. I'm going to roll it towards me, and that's going to put my needle down into my fabric. I'm going to raise my presser foot, turn my project, lower my presser foot, and keep going.
You're sewing both sides and the bottom. Do not sew your top closed.
Now, I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to get my lining pieces. I'm going to put them pretty side to pretty side, and I'm going to sew on 3 sides, just like I did this one. Stitch, back stitch, 1/4 inch seam.
It occurred to me as I was making this, I'm going to enlarge the dimensions just a little bit and make a baby doll diaper bag the exact same way.
Now I'm going to take my lining and I'm going to turn it right side out. And I'm going to push it down into my bag. So what I have is pretty side to pretty side. Here comes the part that you need to know. If you're doing handles, if you're doing ties, let me show you how they're going to be different. Our Bible covers are exactly the same, so I chose 2 different gross grain pink ribbons. One has a little tiny polka dot, one does not. So if you want to do handles like I'm going to do, you'll take your ribbon, fold it in, make sure that it's not twisted, put it between the outside of your bag and the inside of your bag, and clip it. And you're going to do that on both sides. You're going to turn your bag over and do the same thing. And make sure that your handles line up from one side to the other side. We want this handle to be in the same place this handle's in. And the only thing we're worried about on the lining in the front is we want these seams to match at both sides, okay? Now, I'm not measuring where I'm putting my handles. I'm just putting them where I like them. But you could, of course, measure if you want them in a specific place. So now mine is going to have handles. And my handles are going to be right here. Well, this one does not match this one. Do you see that? Yeah, I should pull it down a little bit. So now I'm going to sew all the way around. If I were doing ties instead of handles, all I would do would be put one straight piece of ribbon down in here and just sew one end on this side, and I'd put a straight piece in here and sew it on this side, and then when you turn it right side out, you would have two straight pieces of ribbon. But I rounded mine over and connected both ends, so mine are going to make handles. I'm going to sew this in a whole circle, and I'm going to show y'all what we're going to do.
Y'all be sure to email me a photo when you make these. hometownquiltcompany@gmail.com. I want to see. I am so stinking excited about this. Just sewing this with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam. Back stitching at the beginning and at the end.
If I had thought through my pattern a little better, we wouldn't be doing this. But I didn't, so we are. We're going to take a few stitches out of our lining and create a hole and pull the bag through the lining. Now, when you're doing this at home, don't sew your lining up. Just leave you a hole and you won't be doing what I'm doing. But I just made a hole in the side of the lining. I'm going to pull everything through that hole, and then we're going to close our hole up. The hole's going to close up so much nicer on the inside of the bag just because you won't be able to see it versus trying to close the top of the bag up. Make sure you push your corners out, and y'all know the drill. Chopstick, fingers, handy dandy tool, no scissors. Do not use your scissors, except to cut these threads off. Nobody wants these threads hanging from something you just gave them. And I don't want my little ladies carrying around something that has threads hanging off of it. Now I'm going to close the hole up in my lining, cut my threads off, push my lining down into my bag. Oh my goodness. Do y'all know how excited they're going to be when I get home and show them what they have for church tomorrow? Cut this thread off, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around the top of it.
A top stitch is just a straight stitch close to the edge. It's just going to hold your pieces together, make it lay flat at the top, and look really crisp and nice. Do the top stitch. It's the difference between handmade and homemade.
And we're done. Now the true test is going to be, does our Bible fit in it? Here we go. Y'all, this is so stinking sweet. Dun, 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 dun. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Do y'all know how excited they're going to be to carry this? This might be my most favorite thing I've ever made. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.